Hello artists! I'm Ms. V, your media art teacher, and today we're diving into some abstract expressionism. We're taking inspiration from Jackson Pollock's powerful 1952 painting, Convergence. Known for his unique drip painting technique, Pollock didn't use brushes in the traditional way. He poured, splattered, and danced his way across the canvas. His work was all about energy, chaos, and controlled randomness. For our modern take, we will be using JusArt acrylic markers, which have a vibrant, bold texture that will create beautiful layers for our painting. I suggest using either a canvas, paper, or a mixed media sketchbook. I'm going to be using Canson today, but you are welcome to use whatever you have in your art supply bin. This is optional, but if you want to, you could also use a water spray bottle to thin out the paint as we go along. You could also use an old card for additional texture. I'm going to be drawing in landscape mode today because the painting I'm using, Convergence, is in landscape mode. We want to stay as close as possible since we're creating a painting inspired by Jackson Pollock. These are the markers I'm going to be using. White, mustard tone, the closest yellow from the JusArt kit. Orange, black for any detail work or shadows. Deeper blue, lighter blue, red. Convergence is interesting because there are all of these unique colors splashed across the page, and they have movement. They feel as if they are dancing across the canvas we're working with. What I suggest is that we work first with our midtone values. Now, what are midtone values? Midtone values are the middle of our value scale. I'm going to place an image right on the screen for you. You always have your lighter shades and your darker shades, and right in the middle, you have what we call our midtone values. These can also be used to join together highlights and shadows. It's like a great bridge between those two areas of the scale. Now let's go ahead and start with the blue first. I want to be very careful when I open the cap. Notice right here, the cartridge that holds the ink goes from 1 to 8 millimeters. What does that mean? We can create very light line strokes to thicker line strokes, which we're going to be testing out today. It's also water-based, which I enjoy. Carefully remove the cap and place it off to the side because we will be using this very soon. Looking at Pollock's line work, I see a few splotches of blue that he added. I'm not going to think too deeply about it. I'm just going to go with the flow and start adding some expressive line marks wherever I see them. Remember, we are doing our modern take on it, so it's okay if yours doesn't look exactly like Jackson Pollock's. This is a great tutorial because we're learning how to practice abstract expressionism, just like Pollock did. We are going in without too much of a clear plan and more of an experimental feel with our artwork. He didn't add too much blue. He kind of just took his time. Remember that the marker tip can dry out if you leave it out for too long, so I'm going to pop the cap back on just like so. Okay, let's go to our next color, which is towards the middle of the value scale in terms of intensity, orange. The orange Pollock used was more of a red-orange tone, so I'm going to mix these. If you've never used paint markers before, you can mix these colors by layering. The orange in Convergence is a bit more sporadic and covers more of the canvas. I'm going to open my orange first and start dragging it across the blue. It's okay if it goes over. He just kind of went for it on his canvas and splashed paint across it, so it definitely has movement. I'm dragging it all across the page. Next, I'll close the cap and move on to the red, going right on top of that. I can keep rotating between those two. You can see how it's starting to blend now that I have my first layer down. These markers are a great dupe for Posca markers. Now that I have my base layer done, I'm going to start thinking about the yellow that he added. This yellow is a little too bright for my liking because the yellow he used in his canvas, while I'm looking at convergence off to my left, is a bit more mustard toned. I think I'm going to mix these two to achieve the shade I'm looking for. I'll start with the mustard tone first and use the yellow to give it more dimensionality afterward. When he added the yellow across his page, it was woven in and out between the line work he added. I'm doing the same here. I'll swap over to the light yellow now. You can see I'm not pressing too hard on the page because if you press too hard, it will bleed through or not come out the way you want, and it might also damage the brush tip, so be careful. Allow each layer to set for about 30 seconds. Give it a moment to dry onto the paper so it doesn't stain the marker tip. Now for the fun part. We're going to start dipping into the light blue color. The great thing about following artists from decades ago is that we can bring our own life experiences, cultural backgrounds, and unique perspectives into our painting, making it authentic to us. I typically like to add highlights towards the later stages of my artwork and add the shadows first to gauge how much light to add afterward. Pollock did very thin line work with the black, which I find interesting because he didn't want to overpower the beautiful colors. I'm going to do exactly what he did, go over the artwork with scratchy lines. I see this style quite often in murals around Los Angeles, which is nice to see years later. I noticed an interesting circular shape towards the top, so I will try to capture that feel. As I look at this, some shapes are starting to appear. I think that's looking okay, but I feel we can do more. You may have noticed some of your line work got covered by the black line art, and that's completely okay because we'll redefine that line work soon. I'm going to let the black set for a moment. Here's our next step. Pollock went back in and added additional colors on top, building layer upon layer. In the spirit of Jackson Pollock, we'll do the same. I'll go back to the previous orange I used. Make sure all the caps of your other markers are closed, and I'm just going to go over some of this line work. It's okay if it blends in a little bit. Next, we're using this mustard yellow because I want to incorporate some warmer tones that are a bit more muted. I'm going to go over some of those line marks. My approach is slightly different now. I'm doing a dragging motion. For those familiar with line-making art techniques, you could say that I'm cross-hatching, although it's often used for value in pencil or charcoal drawings. You can see how I'm dragging it out. I'll close the cap, and I see a little bit of lighter blue on top of some of the black line marks he made. I'll bring some of the blue out, but not too much because it varies. Now we're at the point where we want to add the white. I have a better idea of where to lay down shadows. This is the white I'm using. Don't be scared to use the white. We're letting everything set right now, which decreases the likelihood of the marker tip getting stained. It might get stained a little, and that's okay. It happens. But as long as the dispenser is pushing out the white ink, it won't affect your artwork too much. If you're really worried about it, you could have a napkin or paper towel nearby to wipe the brush if it gets stained. I'm just going to use what I have here. You can use whatever you find at home or in the classroom. I'll have a post-it off to the side in case I need to do that. The white splashes on his canvas are pretty strong, so I will keep these closer together, just like he did. I have no staining because I let it set and dry. Now, I know it looks chalky white right now, but don't worry, we will build up the layers. I felt cautious earlier because I wasn't sure how far to go, as I like to start in the middle of the composition and move outward. Now that I know where my border will be with the black line mark, I'll add to the side of my canvas. One thing I like to tell my students is to rotate the canvas as you go along to avoid wrist fatigue. You can drag the paint off the edge. I'm not going for precision because we want abstract art to express who we are as artists. I'll be rotating every time, which makes it easier to paint along the edges. These mixed media books tend to have a perforated edge, so you can tear off the artwork when you're done and frame it if you'd like. I'm going to add some line work up here that I think could benefit the artwork. Remember to put the cap on. Sometimes, when we're in the moment, we forget to cap our markers and they dry out quickly, which we want to avoid. This is what I have so far. I promise to go back in with the white and show you how to build layers. I'm going to drag what I already have, and you'll see the white starting to show more in this section. I'll do the same here. Don't try to go over immediately because it will just blend in. Next, I see a little bit of blue mixed in, and I'll add it sparingly. I don't want it to overpower. The white seems to be the topmost layer, otherwise, we would see it behind. The yellow and orange look like they were thrown onto the canvas around the same time. It's hard to tell without seeing a video of Pollock, but we can guess. We're using very different tools, so it's completely okay if it looks a little different. It's looking pretty cool, and I'm happy with it. I'm going to add some red on top of the orange and then quickly go over with the orange again. We'll keep alternating between them because I'm doing detailing work now. I'll go in with the black and clean up the line work as much as I can. I don't want to take too much away from it, but I want to make it look like paint splatter, even though I'm not using splattering paint like Jackson Pollock did. These markers are not permanent. They are water-based. If you accidentally get some on your skin, it's not a big deal. It will wash off. They're also non-toxic, which I love because I have worked with students sensitive to certain ingredients in art materials. I always make sure to get non-toxic and do my research, which is essential. For this step, I'll add more detail work, especially in areas where I can bring out more orange, as the orange, black, and yellow really stand out in convergence. I'll create some of those oval and oblong shapes I see. I'll also go back in with the bright yellow to bring some of that mustard yellow forward, as it will create a fun, impactful color. I'll finish by adding some splashes of white paint. Look how beautiful this looks. It's really coming together. Of course, this is a modern interpretation, but I think it's really cool. I can't wait to see the end result. I've gone off camera to add some more details, continuing to layer the white and adding a bit of black after the white dried. This is my inspired take on Jackson Pollock. The goal here isn't for it to look exactly like his work. It's inspired, and it's my modern take. I hope this inspires you to take it on your own. Now we have one last thing to do, our artist's signature. I want you all to add your beautiful artist signature in the bottom right corner of your artwork. That way, we have our inspired art. I just added the red marker here. I hope you had as much fun as I did, and thank you for joining us today. Until next time, Ms. V.